you. I was like, wait a minute, are you in a courtroom? Do I need to be collecting funds? Should I be tapping into the coffers? What is happening here? How are you?
I'm great in yourself.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm hanging in here, hanging in here. I'm having withdrawals already.
Uh-oh.
I was like, I don't smell her anymore. Uh, but other than that, I'm good. I'm tired. I'm tired. I feel like I've been just driving. I feel like I'm becoming over the road driver for real.
Because you always somewhere.
I'm driving. I had another meeting. So I had a meeting for our Educators Day in Columbus last week, and then I went to Macon. And then this week we had our executive board meeting in Columbus. I was like, and I'm contemplating going to the regional HCCA in Columbus. So it's like, should I find my friend lives in Columbus and we can't even connect. And I done been there 3-4 times. We can't even connect because she is super, super, super busy. She got a new position. And so she's super busy. And I'm like, girl, I'm about to just sit on your porch and wait for you and come on in. But other than that, it's been good. It's rainy here. Something happened to y'all. Didn't y'all have some kind of weather event? Something?
That was West. That was Pittsburgh. They had a
Okay.
terrible storm. They
Okay.
lost power. It ain't done nothing here in Philly. Thankfully,
Okay.
though. Knock
Okay.
on wood.
I'm not gonna wood for real. That's funny. Yeah. One of the sororities had something and I don't know if it was the same weekend that the storm came. And so I was like, I hadn't heard anything. So prayerfully everybody got back to wherever their destinations were from that. But yeah, I heard about that. I was like, what? And then there was no storm south when I was there. So that was all good. But it was hot. I said, oh, I need to ease into summer. I need a spring. We need to baby step this. But other than that, you good?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, let's get this party started. See, every time I go away, I act like I don't know what I'm doing. It becomes all new again. Anyway, welcome everyone to our Saturday morning tea. Here we brew up the hottest topics in healthcare. We discuss health information, news, education, bail money, the weather, the week or the week before. But pretty much we discuss certification tips, entrepreneurship, and really everything the revenue cycle at large, specifically mid-rev cycle, but everything revenue cycle at large. And as you come in, don't forget to hit the thumbs up or the like button. I'm Clarice Warner. I'm the girl with the pearls, the founder and senior education director of the Professional Reimbursement Network, LLC, where coding education is key. PRN is a healthcare compliance consultancy located in Cincinnati, Ohio, that specializes in revenue cycle and regulatory compliance and education. Now, let me ask you, do you know what it takes to be a certified marketable medical coder? Ooh, because we had a long conversation about that yesterday.
Uh-oh.
And what folks need to do as the world is transitioning. Ooh, we had a long conversation. But anyway, well, before I introduce my co-host, let me share with you information on a free, yes, free 99 email course on the 5 steps to become a certified marketable medical coder.
Are you interested in medical coding, but not sure where to start? And scared of wasting time and resources? Let me help you with the right steps to become a certified marketable medical coder. Learn more at bit.ly/5stepscoder.
Hey, all right. So if you are interested in getting more information about the 5 steps to become a certified marketable medical coder, check the video description for the link. Joining me today is my partner in success. I love that.
Hmm.
Every time I say it, it just brings a warmth to my spirit. My co-host, Mr. Jesse, the registered trademark, put some respect on his name, the coding nurse. So introduce yourself and tell the folks all about you.
Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse. I live in Philadelphia. I've been a nurse for a long time. In 2014, I left the bedside and started in risk adjustment coding. During the pandemic in 2020, I created a company, the Coding Nurse LLC, where I help nurses and other people in healthcare with a clinical background transition into the wonderful world of HIM.
And how is that going?
It is HIMing. It's coming along.
Oh, Lord. Yes, yes, yes. It's HIMing. All right, all right. So before we jump in, let me remind you that you can join in and add to the conversation. So don't be shy. Use the chat. That's where you can place your comments, questions, opinions, all of the things. And remember, your opinion matters and is always welcomed here. So if you have any questions, the only thing that we ask is that you put a Q first so that we know it is a question and for us and we don't miss it. Okay? All righty. So for those who are just joining us or watching the replay, today we are talking MAC oversight failures, what Medicare providers must know. Mhm. But first, let's get into our church announcements, shall we? Hey, hey. Hey. Yes, we definitely need to side. You say that all the time. We need to side. Hey, hey. I feel like I need to clap in.
Yes.
All right. Well, I really don't have many or much in by the way of church announcements. What I do on my phone? The one thing I will say is our friends over at the AMA, our AMA, um, they're still on the good fight. Their good fight continues with CMS and trying to stop the ever slow drip of reimbursement decline. Every year, it seems that so many percentage points of revenue or reimbursement occurs, and physicians are feeling like this is part of the reasons why they can't sustain their practices. This is part of the reason why physicians may be exiting the profession, so on and so forth. So there's a long article that I recently read about, it said 66 million reasons why CMS must be stopped or something like that. And it was referencing the 66 million Medicare beneficiaries. So yeah, that's all I got us by way of church announcements and other things that we'll talk about in the meeting after the meeting. But yeah, Mr. Jesse, did you have anything?
I just want to piggyback off of your church announcement because you know what? I really think this might be the best time for our compassionate sacrifices at the AMA to launch, because this is a very, very pro-business administration, so they might be able to get a lot of stuff off.
They may. And so it will be interesting how that works, particularly with the one dude that we talked about that is taking
Dr. Oz.
All I could think of was the Wizard of Oz right there.
That's about it.
And his his new agenda. So it's gonna be interesting how all of this plays out. I promise you. Every week I just sit back and reflect like, really? Like I know a lot of people get hyped up and worked up and over and I just be like, okay, well, what's next? What's next? Just when you thought you'd seen it all, something else, something else comes down the pipe. Oh my God. Yes. She said, good morning. Good morning. Um, the coding nurse is a gem. Absolutely. Absolutely. She said, yes, definitely need the MLK side. Because, child, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes. You don't have any other
Yeah,
announcements?
actually, I do.
Okay. Look,
I,
here we go.
I have an ICD-10 PCS class starting on Monday,
Okay.
and on Wednesday, June 18th, will be my next ICD-10 CM course.
Okay.
And for more information, kindly mosey on over to thecodingnurse.com.
Mosey.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Because the way this world is going, you're going to need every little bit of every little thing. And so get it while the getting is good, as they used to say in the church house. All right. All right. So let the tea spilling begin. So, my goodness, what if I told you that the same organization that denies your Medicare claims is also responsible for reviewing your appeal? And what if I showed you the data proving that they're getting it wrong more than half the time? So today, with the help of the Office of Inspector General's report and an article from Frank Cohen, we're going to talk about the conflict at the heart of Medicare appeals process and giving you the ammunition to fight back. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome. I'm Clarice Warner, the girl with the pearls, and here we are at another episode of the Saturday Morning Tea. So make sure you pour yourself something warm, like tea. It's raining here, so tea is good. And settle in because we need to talk about this report that the OIG dropped that affects everyone in healthcare reimbursement. So, Mr. Jesse, you know the drill. Just pop on in as you see fit. I just love the shingle. That is so cute. So let's start with some context for our newer listeners. The Medicare Administrative Contractors, or MACs, are private healthcare insurers that have been awarded geographic jurisdictions to process Medicare Part A and Part B claims. This system began back in 2006 with the Medicare Modernization Act, which consolidated the previous system of fiscal intermediaries and carriers into what we now know as MAC. So your fiscal intermediaries used to take care of all of your Part A claims, and then the carriers took care of all of the Part B. So they were kind of siloed and didn't really talk to each other. Well, these contractors now serve as the operational heart of the Medicare program, processing about 1.2 billion Medicare fee-for-service claims annually for over 1 million healthcare providers. They're essentially the gatekeepers of Medicare funds, deciding what gets paid and what doesn't. But here's the critical part. MACs have a dual role in our system. They not only process initial claims and cost reports, but they also serve as the first level of appeal through what's called redetermination process. This means that when a provider disagrees with a MAC's determination, their first appeal goes back to the same organization that made the original decision. Can you see the conflict there? So, uh, at the end of March of this year, the Office of Inspector General, or OIG, released a report titled Medicare Administrative Contractors Did Not Consistently Meet Medicare Cost Report Oversight Requirements. And this wasn't just another routine audit. The OIG examined whether MACs were meeting the requirements outlined in their CMS contracts. So they analyzed quality assurance surveillance plan evaluation reports. These are also called QASP reports for federal fiscal years 2019 through 2021. Oh, see, y'all back and forth. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. What they found was shocking. Every single one of the 12 MAC jurisdictions failed to comply with contract requirements for audit and reimbursement desk review and audit quality for at least one of the 3 years examined. So we're talking about 287 total audit issues across all jurisdictions. Anybody that knows anything about an audit and see those types of numbers for audit issues are probably like, excuse me? What? So let's break down the 5 major problem areas. First, improper reviews accounted for 41% of all issues. This includes inaccuracies in paperwork, failure to make necessary adjustments, and errors in cost component calculations. In one particularly egregious case, a MAC didn't calculate the hospital acquired condition program and cost report settlement data, resulting in a $250,000 overpayment. That's $250,000 that shouldn't have gone out the door. Second, 18% of issues involved inadequate review of graduate medical education and indirect medical education reimbursement. And so for those unfamiliar, GME and IME are complex Medicare payment systems that compensate teaching hospitals for the costs associated with training resident physicians. In one case identified by the OIG, a MAC had duplicate GME and IME resident full-time equivalent counts, potentially resulting in erroneous payments of approximately $650,000. Third, 17% of issues involved improper review of allocation, grouping, or reclassification of charges to cost centers. If you work in hospital finance, you know how critical this is. In one case, a MAC failed to account for physician and physician assistant salaries, resulting in an estimated cost reduction of $1.8 million. The fourth issue, 13% of issues involved improper calculation and reimbursement for nursing and allied health programs. In one example, a MAC erroneously included certain days and charges in calculating adjustments, resulting in overpayments exceeding $250,000. And fifth, 11% of issues involved inadequate review of bad debt, including failure to review provider policies for billing states for deductible and coinsurance amounts. Again, these aren't just abstract compliant issues. These are real dollars, your organization dollars being miscalculated. So here's where, Mr. Jesse, you have anything on this?
I just want to know how much of this is AI related?
The review?
Just the errors in general.
Period.
Because you can't tell me that this smells of AI. Like, people ain't looking. They're relying. That's my opinion, but that's all I wanted to say so far.
Wow. That's a different spin. Because, like, are you truly auditing the MAC? Or are you really auditing the AI system that is, quote unquote, doing the work of the MAC? That's interesting. That's an interesting spin. No, we'll come back to that. The appeals process conflict. So Let's talk about what makes these findings particularly troubling. The inherent conflict in the MAC appeals process. For those who might be newer to Medicare appeals, let me walk you through the 5 levels of the process. So level 1 is redetermination by the MAC, the same organization that made the initial determination. Level 2, reconsideration by a qualified independent contractor or quick level. And level 3 is a hearing before an administrative law judge or ALJ. Level 4, review by the Medicare Appeals Council. And level 5, judicial review in federal district court. So the critical issue is at level 1. So when providers disagree with a MAC's determination on a cost report item, they must first appeal to the same MAC that made the initial determination. Mhm. You heard that right. The same organization reviews its own decision. Now, to be fair, different personnel within the MAC handle the appeal, but it's still within the same organization, operating under the same incentives and organizational culture. Because, they are incentivized for the findings. They're incentivized, to receive an amount based on the findings and the things that they catch. So that's a real slippery slope right there. Slippery. She say the quiet part out loud. Yeah, so that's a real slippery slope right there. And so the question becomes, well, let me go back. So this creates what many healthcare attorneys rightfully consider an inherent conflict of interest, right? I, I think I agree with them. The question becomes, can Max truly provide an independent review at the redetermination stage when they're essentially being asked to find fault with their own organization's work? So basically, the healthcare organization is saying, we don't agree. This, they've laid out their appeal. They've given the documentation to support why they feel that this is an error, da, 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 da. Well, the error is coming from the MAC, who now is looking at your appeal information and will determine, did we really make a mistake, or are we going to stand 10 toes down and say, no, we did not? So how fair is that first level? And for those who deal in denials and appeals know that this can be very costly. And so you want to nip it in the bud as quickly as possible, usually within that first level, because the higher up you go, the more resources are used in order to fight your appeal. So the quicker and the easiest and quickest way is to nip it in the bud at that first level. But is it, and maybe it's the quality assurance arm of things. So it's the auditors who are auditing the auditors type of a situation. But again, it's still under the same organization who still are being incentivized by what they find. Okay. But let's look at the data. So don't just take my word for it. I know we got some data people in here. So according to a 2018 study published in the Journal of Healthcare Finance, the redetermination stage handled by MACs reported reversal rates of approximately 19%. That means only about 1/5 of cases did MACs overturn their initial determination. However, administrative law judge hearings during the same period resulted in provider favorable decisions in approximately 65% of the cases. So that's more than 3 times higher. Okay. The American Hospital Association's 2022 Medicare Appeals Survey showed similar results. Their member hospitals experienced redetermination reversal rates at 22% at the MAC level, compared to a 69% success rate at the ALJ level. This stark disparity suggests that independent reviewers frequently reach different conclusions than MACs when examining the same evidence. So let that sink in for a minute. So when cases reach truly independent reviewers at the ALJ level, providers win more than two-thirds of the time. This pattern has led many healthcare compliance professionals to view the redetermination process as largely perfunctory, a procedural hurdle to clear before reaching a more independent review. And a costly one because, again, as you go through that appeal process, you have to use more resources. And resources equals money, time, personnel, all of the things. Okay. So why this huge discrepancy? The OIG report provides some important context about how MACs operate. MACs function under contract performance incentives focused on processing efficiency and program integrity. CMS uses those QASP evaluations I mentioned earlier to determine if MACs are meeting their contractual obligations. Here's where it gets interesting. These same performance incentives may impact how MACs approach appeals. Fear of negative performance evaluations or contract penalties could create institutional pressure to uphold initial determinations rather than objectively reconsidering them. Mm. So, former general counsel for the Health and Human Services, Thomas Barker, noted in a 2023 Health Affairs article the same performance metrics that drive MACs to meet processing deadlines and minimize improper payments may inadvertently discourage thorough reconsideration during appeals. They're effectively being asked to identify their own errors, which creates an inherent tension. Now, this isn't necessarily about individual reviewers acting in bad faith. It's about the systemic incentives and institutional pressures that may be influencing the process. All right. The OIG didn't just identify problems, they also investigated what's causing them. Their report revealed multiple factors contributing to compliance failures that likely also impact the appeals process. At the CMS level, they found unclear guidance. So MAC officials reported that CMS instructions were often vague and ambiguous, using general terminology that was open to interpretation. Limited feedback on reviews. MACs reported receiving minimal feedback following corrective action plan submissions. Audit programs not updated with changes. So when CMS issues changes through requests and technical direction letters or TDLs, MACs struggled to implement them. Inadequate MAC-specific training. CMS provided general training that didn't address specific challenges faced by individual MACs. And at the MAC level, they found staffing and workload challenges. MAC officials reported difficulties recruiting and retaining audit staff with necessary experience. Okay, I'm sorry. Increasing audit requirements. The number of required desk reviews and audits has grown, including specialized reviews that demand significant staff resources. And these root causes help us understand that this isn't simply a matter of incompetence or negligence. There are structural and systemic issues at play that need addressing. CMS response and corrective action. So to be fair, CMS hasn't been sitting idle. Since the audit period ended, they've been addressing some oversight issues. In May of 2022, CMS initiated a process improvement initiative for MAC performance. After gathering input from MACs, CMS implemented several changes in July 2023. So they doubled the sampling size for AR4 reviewers, and that's auditing and reimbursement desk review and audit quality. They adjusted the scoring system from an all or nothing disallowance to a tiered weight system. They implemented additional MAC training. They established a process for routine feedback. And in response to the OIG's specific recommendation, CMS concurred with all three. Provide MACs with a thorough explanation of QASP results. Update the audit program to incorporate revised change requests and TDLs. and offer MACs additional training and guidance based on the QASP results, including best practices. So these are positive steps, but here's the catch. These corrective actions focus primarily on initial cost report reviews rather than addressing the structural concerns about MAC independence in the appeals process. So the fundamental tension in MACs serving as both initial reviewers and first level appellate bodies remain unaddressed. So what does that mean for you and your organizations on the front lines? And how do you navigate this flawed system? Well, first, you got to recognize that the redetermination level of appeals is primarily a procedural step rather than a meaningful opportunity for case resolution. The Healthcare Financial Management Association, or HFMA, recommends that providers prepare appeals with higher review levels in mind. While pursuing MAC redetermination is a required step, providers should develop appeal strategies with an eye toward ALJ hearings, where independent review is more likely to result in a favorable outcome. The American Health Law Association, or AHLA, similarly advises in its 2023 Medicare Appeals Toolkit that providers should document MAC inconsistencies when appealing cost report items, as they may become crucial evidence at ALJ hearings. And here are some additional practical recommendations. Implement robust internal review processes before submission of cost reports. Prevention is always better than the cure, right? Maintain comprehensive documentation of all aspects of your cost reports. If something isn't documented, it didn't happen. We all know that, right? We've been saying that for all of our career. When appealing, document every inconsistency in MAC determination. Again, these become valuable evidence at higher review levels. And don't be discouraged by unfavorable redeterminations. Remember those statistics. The odds significantly improve at the ALJ level. Also, consider the benefits of professional guidance. Organizations can help you navigate these processes. So reach out to those who do work in denials and appeal processes. Let them help you, especially if you are those smaller individual practices, or you work with those smaller individual practices who may not necessarily have the bandwidth or the understanding of all the complexities involved in documenting the evidence and presenting the evidence for appeal. As Dr. Emily Wilson, director of the Center of Healthcare Regulatory Compliance at Georgetown University, said, the current system requires providers to be their own best advocates. Understanding the technical requirements and the structural limitations of MAC oversight is essential for successfully navigating the complex landscape. Yeah. So before we wrap up, because that was real quick, let me leave you with some key takeaways, even though I have some things I want to actually additions to add to. The Medicare cost report oversight system has significant flaws, and with the OIG finding widespread compliance failures among the MACs. This is an inherent conflict in having MACs serve as both initial reviewers and first-level appellate bodies. The data shows a stark disparity between reversal rates at the MAC level, around 20%, versus the ALJ level, around 65 to 70%. And while CMS has begun addressing some oversight issues, structural concerns about the appeals process remain largely unaddressed. Healthcare organizations must be strategic in their approach to Medicare cost reports and appeals, recognizing the limitations of the redetermination process. Comprehensive documentation and preparation for higher level of appeals are essential strategies for success. And a meaningful reform would require structural changes to the appeal process itself, such as removing redetermination for MACs and assigning it to an independent review entity. So remember, knowledge is power in this complex reimbursement landscape. And by understanding these challenges and adapting your approaches accordingly, you can better position your organization for success, despite the flawed oversight and appeal systems currently in place? Mr. Jess.
I don't even know where to start, but what it did not say is how these appeals are reviewed. Because a lot of people, maybe people don't know, but these MACs do not do it themselves. They have
Mhm.
contractors.
They have contractors.
So
Government contractors. It's a government
ex
entity. It's a government.
exactly. Because
Let's come on.
I used to work for one,
Come on.
and I'm not so it's some offshoring and some AI going on involved in this that is at the crux of the problem.
Okay. Okay.
And
And go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, they were talking about in the article, from CMS's response, that they don't have enough uh staff, or they don't have people who have the knowledge to, I'm trying to find it, but they don't have, basically they don't have people who are knowledgeable enough to do these reviews, or they don't have enough people. And it goes back to, where are you advertising your uh openings? Where are you, I mean, where's that information? And then how are you onboarding them and orienting them? Clearly, there seems to be a gap in the MACs understanding CMS and their training and all of that. But the crazy part about this ain't new. This MAC's been in positions for over 25 years. So what? It took y'all 25 years to say, oh well, wait a minute, we don't understand. So what about the 25 years of redeterminations y'all done, and the 25 years of errors y'all done caused? Because this was a small snippet in them 25 years. What about all that other stuff? Help me understand. I
Because when you go from 22% to 69%, something's wrong.
Something is very wrong. That's a huge gap. And I would be interested. Well, you can't go back to that too, but these MACs have to apply or reapply for these coveted positions on a fairly regular. It's not annually. I think it's every 4 or 5 years, maybe. And so some MACs have gone away. That's why you see restructuring or a new MAC that comes into play, that and they are not equal. Trust and believe. Even as a person going out to get information, education provided by the MAC, they are not equal at all. It's some great heavy hitters out there that provide optimal information, and it is some that you be like, are y'all did y'all just start out? Are y'all baby Macs? What is going on? How did
To
you get
me,
here?
because as soon as you said that, the two that pop out in my mind, actually in order, is Noridian
Mhm.
and then Palmetto.
Oh, I used to love Palmetto. They were everything. I remember when they went away from us, I was like, but I still would go to different MACs just to contrast and compare and get a better understanding, and then go back to the source, because again, it's the MAC's interpretation of what the source said. CMS is the source, and they told you da 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 da, and then the MACs will interpret it how they see fit. So it's very vital for organizations to make sure that they look at both, because that's where you can help you in some of your appeal work.
And then also, we talked about this. This was a couple years ago. That providers, and I always clown the compassionate sacrificers, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Like I remember years ago, it was a provider complaining that the Macs weren't consistent. Like he said that he could document one way for one Mac because he saw people in multiple states, and he could document another way in another state and it would be denied. So there's really no consistency on the national level when it comes to Macs.
Right.
Like, because that's, because, they talk about the NCDs and the LCDs, but there's no uniformity for a lot of those LCDs, which really is the cause of all these discrepancies.
Mm-hmm. And
Well,
because the Macs have their own independent
mhm.
interpretation. And that would be crazy because as a provider, you shouldn't have to document one way for one state and another way for another state. You shouldn't have to do that. Your documentation should be clear and consistent across the board, especially if you've developed accurate, consistent documentation that benefits you. Why do you need to change things around in order to be paid appropriately from state to state? That's crazy. That's crazy.
And
But
it's
go ahead.
and with these contracts, it's like you were talking about, like it's hard to get these federal contracts. So it's hard that there's virtually no competition. You know what you have to be a Mac? Like in addition to having somebody who lost a pinky toe in the war and everything else, like
Ah, right. And I feel like at some point, I don't know, because like they said, they're really just insurance people that are coming together, the private healthcare insurers that are saying, okay, let's jump into this pool and see and do how we do. I don't know. It's there's mud in the water. And to your point, the elephant in the room is who's actually doing the work, especially now. You can't say that for when they first started. I believe it was because it was real people, real paper. But now, and if it's an offshoring situation, that's even bigger. That's an even bigger problem. But interesting to bring that up
I'm
because
telling it just smells like it to me.
how are you missing, or how are you? And then with the push to increase the usage of these AI tools to streamline and make things more efficient, but not necessarily accurate,
But
is amazing.
see, that's what it is for me. Like, it is. I've just never seen like people trust what AI says. Like they really do. Like they don't think beyond. Well, is this really right? And that's where it becomes dangerous because, and also like the people who depend on it are the people who shouldn't be doing it anyway. Let's just really start right there. Like, if you are a lousy behind coder, you don't need to be running nothing through AI. You pull out a damn book and read the guidelines.
And well, that's how some of this foolishness started with our first quote unquote AI, the CAC. And that really is providing suggestions that folks need to verify before they use. But they're like, oh, wait a minute, it gave me this, then this is what I'm gonna go with, and miss all kinds of things.
See, that's the missing link. It's a
Mhm.
suggestion.
It's a suggestion.
They don't get that.
It's a suggestion. It's not the end all be all. And you bet for me, you better make sure that whatever is suggested to you is correct, because they're not gonna go after the computer aided coder. They're going after you.
But if you don't know how to validate,
Come on.
How you going? How you going?
Come on. Come on. Yeah, so like I said, we were talking about some of these things at our meeting, and just and I hate to say this, but I will say this. If you're not a good coder, your stuff about to be laid bare quickly, because you're not going to get those easy cases that you like to search for through your queue. Everybody know what you're doing. Your stuff about to be laid bare. And it's gonna be a sad, sad day in some coders' world if you don't know your stuff. You got to know what you know. What you know, what you know.
But I don't know. I don't know what the alternative is, because it's not like, we have a whole workforce of highly trained people waiting in the wings.
That part. That
So,
part.
I mean,
And look, we can only train so many at a time, right?
exactly.
We only got the same 24 hours everybody else got, and I'm not working 24 hours a day.
But you have people, but to that end, you have people who believe that AAPC will provide a better experience than me and you.
Well, I'm like the data people, and my data speaks for itself.
Exactly.
And it wasn't something that all of a sudden now, oh wow, now we're getting people where they can pass on that first try. We was doing that years ago. Over 25 years to be exact. So no, nobody is playing with y'all. Nobody is playing with y'all. I don't know. It's something to be said about that. And so, and I know, well, we've been having the conversations about the pivot, right? So using these autonomous coding tools, using these generative AI tools, using all of these things, does have the potential to wipe out some of those. It's similar to like the charge master. So you have the charge master that does some actual coding automatically based on certain things. This is kind of similar to that. So, but it's just going to take over other types of services that don't require a whole bunch of thought or don't require a whole bunch of skill. So why would you even come into a field where even though they're making it a production field, but where it's just in, out, in, out, in, out, because that's going to have to go away. If you're taking those easy one-off, two-off types of scenarios or encounters that coders are used to doing, because oftentimes they're pulling those and going to those to keep up their productivity numbers. I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
But how is that ever going to stop? Because when you say you want to say it, but don't want to say it, I'm going to say it. How can you get that to stop when you have people who come out as RHIAs going to management and they never coded a day in their damn life? How they know about productivity? How they know how many can be do? How many you can do? They sit in these meetings. They listen to, because I'm telling you, I just made a post on LinkedIn, like, because people were trashing AHEMA, and I told them, AHEMA is going down the same road that nursing went down 20 years ago. This is why nursing is a mess, not because of the pandemic. Nursing is effed up because of nurses and administration. That ship sailed a long time ago when they pushed the BSN. You had to work your way up in nursing before.
Mm-hmm.
Now you come right out of school, you can be a unit manager without a stitch of experience. You can move up without a stitch of clinical experience. So
Wow.
how can you advocate for people on the floor?
Well, yeah, because you can get your nurse without, if you just have a There was some program, and I'm
They still
thinking
have
that,
them?
yeah, that is, as long as you have a degree, you can go and get a
Yes.
nurse. Yeah, yeah, okay.
So how are you going to advocate, whereas before people who worked up through the ranks, they could say, no, you can't do that, or if you do that, this is going to happen, because you're going to have an increase in your infection rate. You're going to have a decrease in complications because there's nobody to monitor these people. But they just sit back and they okay, well, this is what they said we have to do. I saw it and I see it happen. How long have I been saying it?
You've been
Even
saying it.
here, like it's going to implode because it's not sustainable, because the people at the top don't know what I can't say they don't know what they're doing. They're missing critical information to make the best decisions. And they're not trying to find out. They don't want to listen to anybody because at that point they're so busy trying to keep their six-figure jobs.
So consider this. Consider the pressure that may be applied to these HIM managers and directors and leaders from a financial perspective, because hospital systems, the money ain't money in like it used to. So consider that component, and not having a manager, director, whomever that is not necessarily an advocate for for their team and their coders. So instead of pushing back and saying, well, wait a minute, do you understand the case mix of these patients? Do you understand the severity of these patients? Do you understand, you and I'm going to use a quote fictitious example, but you see a lot of hospitals talk about they can take care of the sickest patients, or the types of patients that they take care of. But do they not understand what goes into taking care of those patients? The resources, the time spent, the days that may be required for a patient's stay, and so all of that is data and information that has to be combed through by a health information professional to make sure that this hospital system is reimbursed appropriately. If you're forcing them and pushing them to just get them out, the documentation, the claims, get them out, you're throwing your quality, you're throwing your accuracy out the window, and possibly your reimbursement. But then for whatever reason, and I don't know why, and I don't know if it's because we call it the revenue cycle, I don't know, but folks feel like, oh, well, we'll just do what we do and they'll fix it on the back end.
That's
Why?
it. That's it. That's it.
Why are you relying on something being fixed on the back end? Maybe they weren't looking at that day. Maybe they didn't catch it. Maybe it didn't hit their cue. So now it's gone until maybe possibly somebody else outside the payer or somebody else catches it. And now it's all back all over again, because now you have to appeal and you have to go through all of the things that we talked about earlier. Why not just do your piece up front and let them know, hey, it takes time for us to do da 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 da. You may not have coded charts in some years because you might not remember it, but it's a different world. We got to look at different things. We have to make sure that this data is correct, not only for reimbursement, but for statistical purposes, for just health information that goes out publicly in general. I mean, public health, all of the things, this stuff needs to be accurate. And you can't do that if you're being forced and pushed to get so many things out at one time. Because one, you don't have an advocate to advocate for you and to let folks know. It takes time to make sure that this is right. We can get it out here, but we can't tell you that it's accurate. But then the coder is going to be penalized if they don't have a certain productivity level and a certain accuracy level in most places. So
Right.
the stress of you talk about, I don't even think it's burnout. It's stress. to be able to maintain those things. And so I know a lot of coders that are like, I'm trying to find the least stressful environment in order to do what I love. And where are those things? Because you're going to still always have as hospital systems are losing money, you're going to continue to have this pressure from your CFOs and the financial people who's going to continue to press on the health information management directors and managers, who's going to continue to press and continue to press and continue to press
What
until
I
they
have,
say, AI can do it all. So we can strip all of that stress and give it to an AI system that will do
but
it overnight. All of them, everything.
in
I'm
my
being
opinion, the whole
facetious, you know that, right?
reason, in my opinion, the whole reason why we even have AI and the reason why it is even talked about is because in my opinion, I have realized that most people, this is my opinion, most people in hospitals, most providers in these private practices have absolutely zero respect for medical coding and medical coders. Zero. They have no respect for their knowledge, no respect for their know-how. They think that it's just codes.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, well, how hard can it be? And because
Everybody can do it.
right, and because they have zero respect for the skill, for the craft, this is how outsourcing came about. And the reason why offshoring, and the reason why AI is really a thing now is because they didn't realize that now these offshore people are effing it up worse.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what, instead of going back to the basics, let's go back to training people to do the job. I'm telling you, I have not had decent training since 2014 when I started at Inovalon. The coding education, the billing education in this country sucks because it's about money. It's about passing a test. And you pass a test and you do what? You can't cite not one guideline. You can't look at a CMS 1500 if you're a biller and figure out what's wrong with it. That should be a basic.
That should be a basic.
In 5 minutes, you
Absolutely.
should be, oh, well, this is not right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about memorizing codes, making sure the signature is where it needs to be, making sure the NPI is where it needs to be, making sure that if this is an injection and this is a drug, that there's an NDC code on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basics.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those things will get you denied.
Mm-hmm. Quickly.
You don't have to run that through AI for it to tell you that. But it's no respect for the skill of medical coding. It's not. People think that people who do computer coding, if you can code in Python and SQL, people think you are a genius. But if people think, if you're a medical coder, it's not on the same level. And it's just as, if not, it's more complex. As somebody who can code in SQL and Python, medical coding is way more complex because in SQL and in Python, those command lines don't change. A command is a command, point blank, and the period, all day, all night. But that daggone sequencing can change everything.
Change it all. Change your life. Change your money.
Exactly.
Be like, well, wait a minute. What happened to the dollars?
Because what happens in scenario A is not going to be the same way it's going to work out in scenario B. You have to know the difference. And it's no respect. But who I blame is AHIMA and I blame AAPC because they don't have any respect for the profession.
And I feel like, and we've talked about this a lot, they need to be the advocates. People pay too much money not to have someone advocate them at the national level. Period. And I know, on both sides, what you're doing on your inpatient side, what you're doing on your professional side. And yes, we have credentials. Yes, people should be able to be identified by their knowledge based on those credentials. But are they? you get a snippet of what you think the credential means. You get a snippet of what you think the skill that were required to achieve those credentials. No, that's why I feel like, well, and my whole love-hate relationship with you nurses, but that's why I feel like so many things were taken from the health information professional decades ago because they never stood up and said, but we do this too. I'm trained clinically in the classroom with a nurse on either side of me, learning the same thing. We can do this too. But nobody would advocate for that. Nobody would speak up and tell the powers that be, these massive systems, the people that need to know that, yes, this is what we do. We don't just look at what the diagnosis is and say, oh, well, let me assign the appropriate code for that.
Well,
there's
but that right there comes down to gatekeeping and what we know and what we, if we going to really keep it a buck, coding is way more diverse than any other specialty moving up the chain. When you go to coding is like a soup. You got vegetables, you got meat, you got a little seasoning, you got it is a conglomerate. But baby, you start getting into CDI, you start getting into audit, and it's white as snow. And ain't nobody trying to talk about it. There's no diversity. None. And it's all gatekeeping. And trust me when I tell you, I've been in meetings, them chicks don't know what they talking about. They talk a good game. It's like that old song back in the day, talking loud and saying nothing. And they make excuses for what they don't know. And they're not even trying to find out. Oh, well, somebody else will take care of it. Because the system works for them. Somebody else can. And then when I come along and I start asking questions, then I'm the problem. Fine, I'll be the problem.
But I'm also the solution. So hear me and hear me well when I tell you da. You're right. I mean, I cannot negate those. I've been the only one in many places, in many rooms. Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't prepared for that. A lot of people really get into this because they really want to change the trajectory of their careers and their lives for themselves and their family. People really get into this because they want to do something. Nobody walks into this saying, "Oh, I want to be a trifling coder." Nobody.
Hopefully they don't.
No, I don't believe that. I really don't. I just think that some people are ill prepared and they go places and they just become worse because there's nobody to set a standard. There is no standard.
There is no standard in certain places and organizations. And understand, the more you know, the more consistent you are, the more you know, the more you continue to grow and get education, get information, stay, because our profession changes all the time. The more you continue to stay abreast of and make yourself marketable, the better off or better chances in some cases you have to then rise above and get into the higher level positions. Now you'd still have to fight the gatekeepers who may be at the gate. However, what you know and how you present and how you provide the information and that speaks volume, and let that speak for you. But you can't come in half doing anything thinking, oh, I deserve to be at such and such a level doing so and so and so. Absolutely not. No. Yeah, this is crazy. And I hear this more and more. The CDI specs are all nurses and the inpatient coders that have been coding for over 20 years. We work in circles around the CDI specs specialists. They stay frustrated with the CDI specialists. And I'm curious to see how this whole thing is going to work out with these two operating under the same organization. Because, baby,
I done already told you what's going to happen.
I know. And so then what is you think AHIMA got to fight today? That's going to be crazy, because you need to, you're not, it's like, oh, unless the goal was, let them have that. And maybe that's the goal, and be honest about it. If that's the goal, then say that.
But the thing is, but if that's the goal, then you don't even need to have coders involved.
That's what I'm saying. If that's the goal, then say that.
Because when I tell you, because if that's the case, you think they lose the money now? I'm telling you, I had a front row seat to this for 2 years. I saw the BS every single day. Because you have to be not a nurse, you have to be an RN, because LPNs are nurses. You have to be an RN to do this work, but yet and still your work has to be reviewed by a coder, and the coder is the one who ultimately determines the bill. Now, if the coder can come back to you and tell you this is not right, then how are they able to do that if they don't have the knowledge to tell you?
You stuck.
Where do CDI mismatches come from? And it comes from I'm telling you, it is the total disrespect and the disregard for medical coding, because I'm telling you, I know people who were trained in CDI and they don't even attempt to do a PCS code. Oh, I'll let the coder do it. But your DRG is going to be wrong in a lot of cases, because sometimes procedures will flip the case from a medical case to a surgical case.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know how to do that, and you don't care to, and you're not responsible for it, what does it matter? And then, like you talked about cherry picking, the majority of my productivity came from surgical cases, because I'm telling you, I could zip through that stuff, because, like, I mean, once you know root operations and once you know the approach, this it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, I had people that daggone queue used to be full of surgical. I knocked that stuff out, and
because everybody didn't kick around and didn't want to do it.
Oh, exactly. They didn't assign it to themselves. Then when they look at it, they unassigned it. Then it's okay.
Right.
Got it. There were days I would do 6 and 7 gastric bypasses and have them done in 30 minutes. It's the same stuff over and over and over. Them doctors copy and paste the same notes.
The same note, just change the name.
I had the PCS codes in a separate little folder. I had to memorize at one point. Okay, but that's that. Okay, they had an intra-op EGD. Okay.
And then taking the time to even learn that. You know what I'm saying?
But they don't have to. They don't have to. That's the thing. They don't have to, because it's beneath them. That's what it is. And I'm telling you, I blame AHIMA and AAPC, because they let it get out of hand.
And how do you rein it in?
Because they're very bad pimps. A pimp takes care of their bottom bitch. The people who make the money, you take care of.
Oh my God. It's hard out here for a pimp. Oh, wow.
But
give me my money. And they say every year, give me my money, member. Give me my money. Give me my money. Wow. Wow. I can just tell you now, the meeting after the meeting is going to be one for the races. Let me just say that. Well, again, if you are joining us with the Saturday morning tea, tune in next week, as we'll be discussing another hot health information topic, and you won't want to miss it. We're going to start out with Pimpin' Ain't Easy. Oh my God.
That should be a coding theme.
Right. Oh my goodness. So are you thirsty for fresh perspectives on the healthcare revenue cycle? By becoming one of the PRNT sippers, you'll join a community of sharp minds who savor the complexities of the healthcare revenue cycle. Why sip alone when you can steep in knowledge together? Come, let's spill the tea on industry insights. And here's what you can expect as a valued member of the Tea Sippers. Exclusive healthcare insights. Gain access to in depth articles, webinars, and resources covering the latest healthcare trends, compliance updates, and revenue cycle best practices. Early access. Be the first to receive expert insights and guides, ensuring you stay ahead in the ever evolving healthcare industry. Personalized support. Enjoy direct access to our team of experts for guidance on medical coding, compliance issues, and revenue cycle management. We're here to answer your questions and support your professional growth. And community connection, which is my favorite. Join a private community of healthcare professionals where you can network, share experiences, and collaborate on finding solutions to all of these common challenges. So, by supporting us, you're not only advancing your healthcare knowledge and career, but also contributing to the success of the Professional Reimbursement Network, LLC, which is a resource that empowers healthcare professionals like you to thrive in their roles, goals, and dreams. So, thank you for considering becoming a member of the PRNT Sippers. And for the cost of 2 cups of regular tea, green tea, how about that? You can join a month, you can join the community. Check out the link in the description of the video, or you can go to bit.ly/the PRNT Sippers. Your support means the world to us, and we look forward to helping you excel in the world of health information and healthcare revenue cycle. Yay. So again, thank you all for joining the Saturday morning tea or checking out the replay. Was the tea spilled today? If it was, put your teacups in the chat. If you're still with us, put teacups in the chat. All right, all right. So if you have thoughts or questions or experiences you want to share about today's topics, we love to hear from you. So drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation brewing. And if you enjoyed this episode, give us a thumbs up. It helps with more healthcare professionals like you find our content. And also, don't forget to check out the Coding Nurse channel on YouTube. Yes. And Instagram and all the places, all the social places. Remember, at the Saturday Morning Tea, we're all about building a community of savvy, informed healthcare professionals. So like, share, subscribe, and comment, and let's grow this community together. Mr. Jesse, do you have any closing thoughts?
Coding ain't easy. Put some respect on it.
Oh, wait a minute. Hey. I like that. I can see some shirts in our future. Put some respect. Well, this has been a great session today for you PRNT sippers. We'll see you momentarily, 10:15. And remember, be safe, be kind, and don't wish for it, work for it. Until next time, take care. Bye.